So right now, we're going to have a conversation about reparations. The Democratic Party, right now, they're pushing reparations and they're pushing police reform right now. Now, my thing is with that is I don't have an issue with that. I actually like the fact that they're taking some kind of initiative with doing that. My issue is that they want to push studies. They want to push things like, well, wait until after the election and then you'll get reparations. No, 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 no. Pay it out first. Pay it out first. You want to know why I'm saying that? Because you had Barack Obama in the White House for 8 years. You had Bill Clinton in the White House for 8 years. And granted, Republicans had they had Donald Trump and they had George Bush. Granted, in my lifetime, I've seen that. But in my lifetime, I haven't seen my people vote for Republicans 80 to 90% of the time. What I've seen is my people vote for Democrats 80 to 90% of the time and get nothing in return. Do you know what we get told? We get told every single time. Well, listen. You're only 13% of the population, right? If we give you something, then other groups are going to be upset, and then we are told we are the bigots, right? Wouldn't that mean all the other groups that would get upset? Hello, Angry Mongol. How you doing, brother? Um, wouldn't that mean that if other groups would get upset that they're actually the bigots? Wouldn't that make them haters? Because my thing is that if you're upset that 13% of the population is getting compensated, then you should have been upset at any amount of money being sent over to Ukraine. Them ain't even citizens. You should have been equally upset, right, when we sent money over to Japanese citizens who weren't even naturalized yet. They knew booty. They were brought here. But they were compensated, rightfully so, for what we did to them. But my thing is that why is it that when it comes to my folks, suddenly everyone starts patting their pockets? Oh, we don't have the money. You don't have the money. You're telling a combat soldier, you ain't got the money. Excuse me. Let me point something out to you. Not only did we spend a fortune in Iraq and Afghanistan, not only did we spend a fortune paying people there, building up schools, building up infrastructure, training the freaking police, training the freaking military, training teachers, training healthcare workers, training administrators, training administrative workers, training people who does stenography, training people to be translators. We did all that, and yet when you go over to Compton, we won't train somebody to be a damn plumber. But you ain't got the money? No. It's not about money, it's about priorities. It ain't about money. I'm going to say it again. It's about priorities. I want my folks to get compensated, not just because they are American citizens, but because it's about justice. It's about a moral debt at this point. A moral debt. See, a lot of people can't trace their lineage, and I understand that that's a point of contention for some people, right? My thing is, I can trace my lineage all the way back to a man named, uh, um, a man with the last name Sands. Sands. And a slave woman named Jenny. She was a breeder. I've traced my lineage back to the 1500s. 1500s. And my thing is that I want people to see that and understand that's how your country got built. If you live in this country, that's how it got built. It got built off of the backs of the people who suffered, who toiled, who troubled. Like, I'll give you another prime example. If you need another good snapshot of why we need reparations, go over to Charleston, South Carolina, not over to the nice parts. Find an Uber driver or a Lyft driver and find one that has an accent. And that accent, that Gullah Geechee type of accent, trust me, once you hear it, it sounds like it's from the islands, but it's not from the islands, right? And when you go talk to them, ask them to take you over to Ashley Phosphate Road, right? That's in North Charleston, or right on the border of Charleston, right? And when you go and talk to them, and they take you over there, what's going to happen is you're going to notice the subtle change in the environment. A lot of people who live there are descendants of slaves. Then you go across that bridge a little bit, and you'll see all the nice neighborhoods. You'll see old slave plantations that were never brought. They were never brought down. They were remodeled, or some of the same grounds that slaves were kept on have new houses on them. And yet, the descendants of the people who built all that stuff, who suffered on those same grounds, are living in poverty. While the descendants of the slave masters, they doing A-OK. That gives you a pretty good snapshot of what I'm talking about. Why I don't want to hear Democrats or Republicans talk about they don't want to pay reparations. People are like, oh, you're so hard on Democrats. What about Republicans? I'm saying it for them too. No mercy. No reparations. No vote. It's 2024, man. It's time for us to turn the page on this stuff. Right? Some of the lies and deflections that people try. Oh, well, what about Native Americans? What about them? They got reservations. They got casinos. Well, those aren't so great. Okay, take it away then. You're gonna just ignore the fact that they had us enslaved for even longer than the freaking white people? Even after the 13th Amendment was passed, the 5 major so-called civilized tribes had us as freaking slaves, with the Cherokee being a landmark example. They didn't end slavery until 1863. And 3 years later, 3 years later, right, the Buffalo Soldiers, all black regiments formed up, and they target Native Americans. And the reason is because so many Native Americans had us as slaves, and still wasn't freeing us. Still wasn't freeing us. And that's what brought some of the anger. That's why those Buffalo Soldiers fought so hard. That's why it seemed like they were almost unbeatable. That's why. Because throughout our history, foundational Black Americans, Black descendants of American slaves, freedmen, whatever you want to coin us, right? Throughout our history on these particular lands, when our folks are in trouble, you either have to enslave us or we're going to respond. Have you not seen all the massive demonstrations in the streets currently? That's not anything that's unusual for our history. We've been doing that. A lot of people thought that it was the Union soldiers who were freeing slaves. Even after slavery ended, the Confederates in the South, they kept slaves. The Native Americans certainly did. That's why all kind of deals and treaties had to be made to actually free us. Don't believe me? Go ask Don Cheadle, the Hollywood actor. Go ask him. There's a whole video about it, right? A whole video about it. So I want you to understand, there's lies and there's damn lies when it comes to this particular subject. Got people out there saying, well, what about the Irish slaves? And then I look into my own history and find out that the so-called Irish slaves weren't Irish slaves. They were slave masters. And even the Irish historians are saying, can y'all please stop saying that? So see, people tell these lies when it comes to black folks because they get some kind of sick satisfaction off of denying black folks anything. They get some kind of satisfaction off of it. It's sick, it's twisted, but you see it. You see it all the time. The worst part about, dealing with some of these suspected white supremacists in the comment section, dealing with them in freaking real life, dealing with them on your job, dealing with them, just in general, even in some of your families. The worst part about dealing with some of these folks is that they don't realize it's 2024 and some of their tricks people can see through. And people get upset and annoyed and angry, not so much that these people are being racist, it's that they're not original. And it's gotten to the point where I think even a lot of non-black people are just getting tired of it now. Because what has white supremacy given you? Low birth rates, meth, opioid epidemic. I mean, what has it given you? You started mass incarceration. Now all of a sudden y'all start getting incarcerated. Now you're crying about it. Even though we're the ones still being falsely incarcerated. Just had a brother released out of prison after like 48 years. 48 years in freaking Oklahoma. Black man. For a crime that he never committed. Right? Not unusual for black men. It's very common. That's happening to black men, right? Yet you got every other group complaining, well, why is there mass incarceration? Because you as a country, the dominant white society, and some other folks and other groups, the model minorities, wanted to push a crime bill. And you wanted to push mass incarceration. And how'd you push that? You pushed that using black faces. Let's keep it a buck. Bill Clinton did it. Joe Biden did it. Donald Trump did it. George Bush did it. Ronald Reagan definitely did it. No question. They all did it though. And now everybody's sitting back pretending like, oh, everyone's sitting back hiding their hands. We ain't do nothing. We ain't do it. Let me ask you a question, America. When the black slaves were freed and you saw that slave masters were being compensated, why is it that all these suddenly enlightened, these enlightened folks and their ancestors, why didn't your ancestors protest that? Why do I gotta pay because you had slaves? How come your big brain, your so-called superior intellect ancestors didn't protest you being charged taxes and them being charged taxes for slave masters being compensated because their slaves were freed? If your ancestors were such big brains, so intelligent, they were so intelligent that you claim your ancestors freed slaves and then compensated slave masters. Either that's a lie or your ancestors aren't very intelligent. Pick one. Because it can't be said in the same sentence without somebody looking dumb or looking like a liar. You cannot somehow free slaves and then pay people who had slaves. That defeats the point. Right? And the one thing that I love that these people do, they bring up people like Thomas Sowell. And the thing about Thomas Sowell, I know who Thomas Sowell is. If you want Thomas Sowell, go watch Thomas Sowell. Why are you here? The only reason why white folks like Thomas Sowell is because he speaks against black people. That's the only reason why. You want to know how you know that? Ask them who's your second favorite your second favorite economist. They probably couldn't even name one. They probably don't even know Thomas Sowell is an actual economist. They don't know anything about his economic theories. Because if he was so smart, people would be listening to him, but they really don't. When you're an anti-black raccoon, you'll be given a platform. Ain't nobody even knew who Thomas Sowell was before he started talking all that anti-black stuff. Just like, for example, nobody knew who Candace Owens was before she started talking about all that anti-black stuff. Anybody care who Brandon Tatum was? Anybody care who Anthony Brian Logan was? Again, when the right thinks that they have a token, they will amplify that. Right? Why do you think so many white people show up in black comment sections? Thomas Sowell! Thomas Sowell! Thomas Sowell! Go read it, please. Listen to Thomas Sowell! Thomas Sowell! What about Thomas Sowell? And the strange part about it is that these people shout, go listen to Thomas Sowell so much, right? And I asked them, can you name me 5 of his economic theories? And I get out my Google and I ask them, and I'm looking at the actual economic theories, and I'm waiting for them to answer. And when they try to deflect or answer, usually I'll bring them on the show to come and talk. The moment they don't answer the question, I will mute them. Right? I'll mute them. I'll say, no, you don't get to keep talking. So when I ask you a question, you're gonna answer it directly. And then usually they can't give me an actual answer. You wonder why that is? Because anti-black racists keep a mental notebook of all the coons. They're just waiting just to throw them out. See, they use black people against black people like with Pokemon. Okay? Because the thing is that whenever I debate these people about economics, you can see why there's low birth rates. Who in the world who would want to reproduce with that? And you find out very, very quickly that a lot of these people are followers. They don't have any original thoughts. They don't have any original beliefs or ideas. Just talking points. Just talking points. And it's interesting, right? Because if you really have an interesting point, right, why don't you bring up something that you thought and you said? Why you gotta bring up somebody else? The whole time I didn't do that. But see, when you're a follower, when you're a bootlicker, and when you're easily led, you don't have much else to do. See, imitation is flattery, and people can be imitated. I understand that. That is not a bad thing, right? But let me invite somebody on. Talk black but sleep white. Interesting. Let's bring him on. Now, if you post anything else without coming on, I'm gonna bang you from the chat. Let's see. Come on here, guy. Because I know you're an FBI agent. You post on TikTok a little bit too often, and there's whole Discord threads about you. That's why I invited you on. You gonna come on, FBI agent? Exactly. See, these people who just shout this random gibberish. I want you to notice, right? The freaking guest line is open. I'm not stopping anybody from joining. The reason why they don't want to come over is because they understand I'm not a pushover. That if you come on, you can talk, get off wherever you're going to get off. But while I'm talking, you're not going to talk. They don't like that. See, they want to be able to talk over you, control your show, control the flow. And it's just not going to work here because, unfortunately for these people, they are so used to being lords over black people to the point where it's the idea of a black man telling them no. I mean, it just makes them just flip out. Have you ever seen, like I'll give you a prime example. Have you ever seen a black man turn down a white woman? The way she acts. Now, granted, I'm with somebody who is Latino and white. Now, she didn't act that way, but there are a lot of white women who do behave that way. There are a lot of white women who do behave that way because they have this idea that you're not supposed to reject them. Now, don't get it twisted. There are some black women who are exactly the same. For example, if you turn them down, they'd be like, "Oh, do you like men then?" I've seen that a lot. No, it just means I don't like you. It don't mean anything personal. You know, it don't mean anything against black women, white women, anybody. It just means I pick somebody. It don't mean anything against anybody else. But see, some people who live vicariously through everyone else's life that they see on a freaking TV screen or a freaking cell phone screen, they think like that. You pick someone, so that means that you don't like me. This is the third most populated country on planet Earth. And you took offense to one guy picking one person. Deal with yourself. Spring Smether says no one owes you anything. I agree. Why don't you go tell Ukraine and Israel the exact same thing? And by the way, no keyboard warriors in my chat. All right, Spring Smethers. If you believe that, then make sure you go tell them people at the reservations the exact same thing. In fact, I want you to go show up to a reservation and tell them that. No one owes you anything. And when the tribal police show up and remove you, I want you to remember you said that. Okay? Mateo says, if I ever got mugged, I would call a cab. At this point, you might as well, because what are the cops going to freaking do? They show up after the fact. Listen, cops can solve a lot more crimes than what they freaking let on. They tell you, oh, this guy got away. How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? You can't even get an officer's name when they shoot someone. How do you know they thoroughly investigated something? Call a can, call a cab, call a cab. Absolutely. Cops, J4J says cops aren't even legally obligated to protect anyone. Absolutely, they are not. They are not. So reparations. The thing about it is that people have asked who should qualify. Descendants of American slavery. Now that's for this round of reparations. Now, say later on down the road, you got somebody from Haiti who wants to get reparations from like France, Canada, or even this country. That's not a problem with me, but we got to get compensated. We are the one group that has waited forever and the longest. If you want to get a good snapshot of what I'm talking about in terms of the slavery, so let me give you a brief breakdown of my family's history, what I've learned off the top of my head. So on my mother's side, there's the Rhines family, right? The Rhines family. The Rhines family is linked to the Neal family. The Neal family is linked to this guy named Samuel Neal. He's a Irish slave owner. And my ancestor, John P. Rhines, is I think he was one of the first 20 black lawyers in the country. And that was interesting. You know, I thought that like a lot of people in my family were very, very famous, but I didn't realize that he was that famous. He was one of the first state Supreme Court justices in the country. He was a state Supreme Court justice in Tennessee and also in Washington, D.C. So he was a pretty big deal. And then you had a lot of famous actors, a lot of famous artists throughout my entire line on my mother's side. Now that's just on my grandmother's side, going back. On my grandfather's side, things get even more fascinating. But it's on my father's side to where I can go back the furthest and go back to the 1500s, whereas my ancestor, Newport Sands, Genie Sands, and a lot of Africans were taken from Nigeria. They were taken specifically from the Igbo people. The Igbo people were what Killmonger from the Black Panther movie was referring to when T'Challa tried to save him, and he said, no, I don't want to be in bondage, and my ancestors knew to jump from the slave ships. Well, there's a place called Igbo Landing, IGBO Landing, and those slaves jumped from the slave ships before they can be put in bondage. So that's what he was referring to. He was referring to my people, right? My people jumped for their freedom. So I have a history of people who resisted every step of the way. The Igbo, they were known to be rebellious slaves. They were known to be tough slaves to deal with. They led a lot of slave rebellions, a lot of slave revolts. No vote as in if you're not talking about reparations. I'm not talking about no freaking study. I don't want to talk about what you're going to do. Do it and then I vote. Period. No, my people have waited for too long and I can trace my lineage to 4 lines of slavery. Sorry. 4 lines. 4 lines. I'm the one guy, right? So you just want to vote? No. I'm a single issue voter. I care about reparations. I care about police reform. I care about a few other issues. But if you're not talking about those issues, what's the point? And shaming me or talking about what about the Republicans? That's not going to work. It's just going to make me even angrier. Okay? Even angrier. I don't like that. I don't like when people try to convince me to sell my people up the freaking river. Not doing that. I'm not doing that. Because the thing is that my folks have waited the longest. We have sat there and watched this country attack Vietnam and then rebuild it, attack Japan, then rebuild it, attack China, then rebuild it, attack Iraq, then rebuild it, attack Afghanistan, then rebuild it. I mean, you drone strike countries left and right all over the place, and then you come around and freaking rebuild them. You give money to freaking Ukraine, you give money to the freaking Germany, Sweden. Why? These are sovereign nations who should be able to take care of themselves. I am not Ukrainian. I'm not Israeli. I am American. So if I'm saying let's pay reparations to at least some Americans, why are you against that when you know we're sending billions to people who you will never meet, you will never see, and whose country you will never freaking visit? You're so willing to throw money for freaking drone strikes, so willing to throw money for freaking wars, freaking contractors. You are so willing to do that. Why? And yet the moment I mention anything, even health care for Americans, well, we ain't got the money. We ain't got the money. Oh, we ain't got the money. We had money to build, to freaking bomb and rebuild freaking Afghanistan. I know, I was there. Kandahar Airfield, CAF. I mean, the thing is that when people talk about helping the American people, I've noticed this. It's not just black people, but especially black people. You get these bootlickers, these people who don't understand that boots are not for eating, boots are not for dinner, boots are not for lunch, they ain't for breakfast, they ain't for brunch. Boots are for walking. These bootlickers who will come along and says, well, we ain't got the money. We ain't got the money for health care. We ain't got the money to build roads. We ain't got the money to build schools. We ain't got the money to pay teachers. But you got money to build the mother of all bombs. You got money for stealth bombers. You got money for fighter jets. You got money to pay congressmen and senators a pay increase. These people have the nerve and the audacity to complain about pay. You don't do shit. You shouldn't be paid in the first place. But then the moment I say reparations, you got an issue with that? We're paying reparations to Ukraine right now. I'm not Ukrainian. I'm not Russian. I ain't even white. Why? Mofo, why? It's amazing how people will justify that, right? You will justify theft. When money is sent off from beyond these borders, it's theft. If you're spending money on the American people, I don't mind it. I have no issue with it. No problem. You want to know why? Because I was a soldier. I care about my country, believe it or not, because I live here. I live here. So why is it that every time I mention money going to any American, but especially black people, do you get these boot-sticking parasites showing up saying we ain't got the money? You ain't got the money. You think we ain't got the money. Excuse me, lobbyists alone got the money. Okay? You saw Clarence Thomas, you saw Barack Obama, you saw Donald Trump, you saw George Bush, you saw Bill Clinton, you saw, Jimmy Carter, you saw Ronald Reagan. They entered the White House, right, without a whole bunch of money. But they left the White House with a whole lot of money. I mean, Donald Trump he had money before, but he didn't leave broke. He didn't leave broke. People get into politics to make money now. People get into politics to make money now, right? But the moment I mention let's pay reparations to people out there, common Americans, your fellow Americans who you know are suffering, who you know have suffered, who you know continue to suffer, the moment I say that, you got an issue with it. You are more okay with us sending money to Ukraine because you're a bootlicker over giving actual moral economic justice to people who live right here. And guess what? You can't say, well, it's just because it's black people. You do it in every situation because that's what bootlickers do. When reparations are paid, do you understand what's going to happen? Black people are going to actually spend the money. They're going to say, well, you're just going to spend it on Jordans. You're just going to spend it on freaking weaves. You're going to spend it on Cadillacs and cars. Do you know what that actually sounds like? Tax revenue, moron. Do you even get how money works? Money works in this country by spending, right? That's why the country gave you a stimulus, to make you spend money. They don't want you to hold on to it. They want you to spend it. Because holding on to it prolongs things. They want you to spend it to stimulate the freaking economy. Do you get that? So when you give money to black people who you say are just going to spend it left and right, guess what that's going to do? Stimulate the economy and help you. Jesus, like people are cutting off their nose to spite their face. They are cutting off their nose to spite their white supremacist face. Just dumb stuff, man. Think about what you say before you say stuff. It's amazing how people out there don't really think about the subject of reparations before they speak on it. They speak on it from a very emotional standpoint. Very emotional. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to pay for it, man. Well, guess what? I don't want to pay for white-on-white crime in Ukraine. But I'm paying for it, right? Stop crying. Suck it up. Quit being a snowflake. I don't want to pay taxes, man. Who does? Who does? Stop crying. Good Lord. I mean, there's a reason why snowflakes are white. They're white in color. They ain't black in color. There's a reason for that. Nature's telling you something. Nature's telling you a whole lot. Oh, I don't want to pay tax. I didn't have no slaves, and I didn't harm a single Ukrainian or a freaking Russian. What's your point? What's your point? I ain't taking no Native American land. Y'all did that. What's your point? I ain't harm a single Mexican. Y'all did that when you made Texas. And you call it New Mexico for a reason. Okay? Y'all did that. So, again, I want you to understand something. You can deflect, you can lie, you can avoid the issue all you want to. You will pay reparations to descendants of slaves. Democrats are pushing it for a reason because they're going to lose if they don't push it. And you have to pay it because it will save this country. It's the one thing you haven't tried in terms of an economic stimulus. Welfare doesn't count because Becky Sue, Janet, and Becky May is on it right now. So is Billy Bob, Tommy, and freaking Randall at the freaking trailer park right now. They're all on freaking welfare. They're all grilling up freaking government grilled cheese sandwiches right now, okay? All of them. Stop capping. Welfare is not for us. You could remove all 13% of us out of this country and you're still paying billions upon billions upon billions on welfare because of Becky Sue, Janet, Billy Bob, and Randall at the freaking trailer park. Okay? You understand that? Like, again, you could remove every black person from this country and you still got that meth problem. You still got the population problem where you can't seem to reproduce. You still got that problem with welfare. Because you can't get Becky off the freaking trailer park, the freaking porch. So the thing is, you can try to deflect, you can try to lie, you can try to point out something in the black community that's wrong, that's great. All that stuff leads back to white supremacy. All that stuff leads back to white supremacy. Every problem in the black community, especially in this country, leads back to white supremacy. If we are so bad off by ourselves, then leave us alone. Do not subject us to anti-black racism then. You don't want to hear about slavery? Don't enslave us. Change the freaking 13th Amendment. That's a pretty good start. But you don't want to talk about that though, because again, bootlickers, freedom, liberty, justice, bootlickers, it's like again, it is a harsh reality. They can't take it. They can't hear the idea of a black man saying, hey, we should have justice. We should get rid of the freaking 13th Amendment. We should actually pay reparations. We should actually pay for healthcare. We should actually pay for people to be able to live somewhere reasonably, to actually have food. You want to know why? Because I care about my damn country. Do you really think I'm saying all that because I don't care about my country? I want healthcare for people because I don't care about them. I want people to have food because I don't care about them. I want them to have somewhere to live because I don't care about them. But you who don't want to have any of that, right? You can't. Looks pre-recorded to me, not live. I mean, I appreciate it. Listen, I'm not mad at you. I'm flattered that you thought that this was pre-recorded. I've been told that I got a voice for radio to look for radio. I get a lot of compliments. I really appreciate that. But that's my basic spiel. I come from 4 lines of slaves. Like, a lot of people, a lot of people who speak on this, they're not necessarily able to trace their lineage, but I'm one of those people who absolutely can. I'm one of those people who absolutely can. And reparations were 40 acres and a mule. Hey, listen, 40 acres and a mule is great. You ain't gonna give that out right now. We'll take cash. I'll take cash. I'll take cash in lieu of your 40 acres and a freaking mule. And do you really sure you want to give me 40 acres? 40 acres is probably going to be a lot more than what you're going to pay me in cash. I just brought a little bit over 13 acres for $500,000. I signed for it on Monday. I close on Monday. Yep. I'm buying a brand new property. This is like my 8th property that I brought. Yeah. So no, you might want to just give me the cash. You don't want to give me the acres. All right. You don't want to just give me the acres. Jimmy Kane says, Jimmy Kane, I want to invite you on, Jimmy Kane. I want to have a conversation with you, man. A nice civil conversation. Come on, Jimmy. You say we don't deserve reparations. Well, then let's have a conversation about it. Let's talk. Oh, Jimmy. Come on, Jimmy. Little Hawk, how you doing? Oh, I've been chilling, man. I've been chilling. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
So have I, brother.
How you doing? How you doing?
Just hanging out, watching a boob tube and listening to you.
Right. So I want you to understand something, Jimmy. I want you to hear me. Jimmy, when I make these statements are logically consistent. Now, Jimmy, it's up to you to break it apart, right? And prove me wrong. I'm going to tell you,
Jimmy. You wrong.
Jimmy. I'm talking. It's rude to interrupt people when they're talking. Please don't do that, Jimmy. I didn't do it to you. I brought you on so we can talk, Jimmy, and you're already being hostile. Notice how my tone is so soft and yours is already kind of, I want to prove anything to you. Jimmy, come on, man. So what I'm saying is that there's been other groups who have been compensated, and those groups have already spoken. Like, for example, Asian Americans and other groups have spoken, and they've said that we should be compensated, Jimmy. A lot of them have said that, including some of the Jewish groups, like, for example, Reclamation Judaism, that represents over 30,000 Jewish synagogues. You've had Muslim groups who have said it. You've had Hispanic groups. Well, not as many Hispanic groups have said it, but a lot of them have. And then when you look at the polls of what Black people think, the Pew Research Center back in 2020 and also 2021 and 2022, they asked Black people and even Black Republicans in the majority agree on reparations. We just disagree on the form that it takes. Some people want it in education, some people want it in land, some people want it in cash, but we all agree on reparations, Jimmy. So what is your response to all that? I'm inviting you to turn your microphone on.
Agree on that? Not at all. You know, if you get what you work for in this country, that's it. You know, you weren't a slave. I wasn't a slave owner. I don't owe you nothing. You don't owe me nothing. All we need to do is be civil to each other and get along with each other, because we all bleed red, brother. We all are red on the inside. And, you know, all this manufactured racism, you know, now I agree from in the past, there definitely was overtones of racism that were just absolutely horrifying. And nowadays, a lot of it's manufactured from the left. You know, it's a talking point to virtue signal. You know, a Black person does not need a white person like me to tell them what their feelings are and how they feel.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, actually, 3 of them. One, you say it's manufactured. Can you offer proof of that? Because you say it's manufactured. I faced it myself. In fact, I even put it. Sir, don't do that. I hate it when people cut me off. Did you notice how quiet I was when you were speaking?
You let me have one little minute, a couple of minutes.
I'm gonna tell you one more time, sir. I'm speaking. Please don't do that. Okay? Now, one, you saying that it's a thing of the past, it's manufactured, it's the left, it's this and that. It's not the left. It's not manufactured. It's not any of that. Okay. And he left because he just couldn't help himself, man. He couldn't help himself. He has to overtalk black people. He's got to be rude, right? And I tried to be nice. Like, you notice how soft I was being at first, and then I started getting a little bit louder when I noticed he just kept cutting me off, and I hate that, man. You know, like if you can't have a conversation, then don't bother. But you know some of the lies he was telling. Like, I'm gonna break down some of the lies, right? Some of the lies he said. One was he said, "Oh, racism is a thing of the past." Interesting. I just mentioned how a black man was released after 48 years behind bars. You just mentioned Antioch Police Department. Just mentioned the NYPD, LAPD, the deputy gangs. The freaking redlining that's still going on to this very day. The fact that you still got sundown towns that exist even now in the north, in Montana. I was gonna move there. I know there's a place called Roundup in Montana, like the freaking Roundup, like the freaking bug spray, the freaking grass spray. Place called Roundup. I was gonna move there. I googled it, and when I googled it, Roundup, Montana is a sundown town. So you still got sundown towns. Like, is this even now? So this idea again, and it really shows you that some folks are living in two separate realities. He's delusional. It couldn't have been any clearer. He's delusional. He's delusional. The way he was talking. Well, I was never a slave and I was never a slave master. And sir, we're not talking about the history of slavery. We're not saying I'm a literal slave. I'm saying you built wealth off of my people. If you feel that way, then go over to a reservation and tell them the exact same thing. I bet you won't, because when the tribal police show up, they are not going to be happy to see you. That much I can promise you. Right? So the thing is that when I hit him with the Black Republican, I said, listen, the Pew Research Center said Black Republicans, even Black Republicans kind of want reparations. Well, I don't agree with that. So you mean the whole Black community then? Black Republicans, Black leftists, Black Democrats, Black conservatives. You listen, if you get somebody like a Tariq Nasheed, a Phil Scott, they're more conservative, right? And then you get someone like me and some others who are more left-leaning, and we're all saying the same crap. At some point, your issue isn't reparations. Your issue is with Black people and what we want. I would say someone says Tariq is conservative. He's more conservative than he is like leftist. But I would say he's more of a mixture. He's more of a person who's into reparations and Black empowerment. Like he leans. Listen, if one party does it over the other, that's where he leans. I'm the same way. I don't care if you are Democrat. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Libertarian. I don't care if you're a Green Party. I don't care if you're transhumanist. I'm going with whoever is going to benefit me at the moment. And right now, at the moment, both sides are playing games, hard games. Republicans are just hardcore white supremacists. The Democrats, they got Joe Biden, so once again, hardcore white supremacists. It's just like one side openly embraces white supremacy, and the other side pretends to not do it. Right, so that's the only difference here, and this is why foundational Black Americans or your freedmen. This is why we're not swayed, right? We're not swayed by political parties. We're not swayed by your political arguments because we've heard all this crap for centuries, right? We've heard the same crap for centuries. We don't care. We don't care about your stupid trolling anymore. We don't care about your crying, your belly aching. Oh God. Oh God, you want reparations? Yep. Yep. And we'll get it. We'll get it. And you have to freaking deal with it. Same way that I gotta deal with us paying for black on black crime here. Right? Black on black crime. Same way you have to deal with us getting money. Because you know what's really, really upsetting to a lot of these folks? What's really, really upsetting to a lot of these folks? The idea at a black man, especially a black man, it could be a black woman, but especially a black man might have some financial dominance over them. Because I've already doing a lot better than a lot of white folks who call me ignorant, right? And you see how they're behaving, right? They can't deal. Listen, the idea that a black man can talk smack to you and you can't do a thing about it, they can't. They can't take it. They can't take it. I'm part African. There's going to be a lot of white folks saying that they're part African, so they deserve reparations. If you are not a black person and a black descendant of American slaves, you don't get anything. Not a dime. Nothing. Nothing. Same way that you don't have an issue with us sending money over to Israel for them to go and commit crimes, same way you're going to deal with us getting money. Until next time, guys, horns up, peace out, right? Good night and good luck. And to the Native American people out there saying, oh, well, what about us? You had us as freaking slaves. No. Fuck off.